Hi, my name is Teresa Jurgens, and I am the author of the Innovation Process book. In this episode, we are wrapping up part two, the Agile New Product Development Process, with Chapter 11, Cautions for Agile New Product Development Process. It's a little bit of a longer episode, so stick with me. There are cautions across every new product development process. Agile is still relatively new, only 20-ish years old, and so the cautions are still coming to light, but there are also benefits, and we'll touch on some of those items in this episode. You can get your copy of the Innovation Process book by scanning that QR code, which will take you to Amazon, where you can get either a paperback or a Kindle copy. I recommend the paperback just because it has so many figures and graphs and charts in this book that I think that will be more effective for you to follow along. So let's get started. Chapter 11, Cautions for Agile New Product Development Process. The Agile Manifesto was written just over 20 years ago. As with any emerging process, there have been successes and learnings as different organizations have adopted the philosophies. In the previous chapter, we noted that the best circumstances for implementing an Agile New Product Development Process, Scrum, is in software development. One of the repeating concerns of Agile implementation has been that there is too little structure, resulting in chaos. While Scrum has more ceremonies and rituals than most other forms of Agile project management, there are still a number of cautions if you are selecting Scrum for new product development process management. Definition of done. In Chapter 9, we described the process of writing a user story, creating a prioritized product backlog, the sprint, subsequent feature demonstration, and sprint reviews. Tasks not completed during a sprint fall onto the sprint backlog, measured and shown on the burndown chart. One reason tasks are not completed during a sprint is an insufficient definition of done. A clear definition of done is critical to remove ambiguity for completed features and to maintain an established level of quality. While acceptance criteria are generated for each individual user story, done criteria are standardized across a project or the entire organization. Unfortunately, many teams fail to define done, and quality of products launched into the marketplace then suffers. Low quality products require fixes and rework so that resources end up committed to maintenance work instead of revenue generating new product development work. Unknown customer value. There are several opportunities for an Agile implementation to fail as we consider the customer. A key tenet of Agile processes is to deliver value quickly to both the customer and the company. When value assessments are missing or inadequate, the benefits of Scrum can vanish. Voice of customer. First, Scrum assigns a role product owner to represent the voice of customer. Yet most of the time, the product owner is representing internal business needs. For example, during one of our product management training sessions, a group of software engineers insisted that their customer was the business unit, and they did not need to have any knowledge of how external end users interacted with their tools. When challenged to find their own products, for example, a blue dress, with a casual internet search, no one could pinpoint the item. The message of developing products for external customers finally hit home. Product development must include feedback from real customers and end users, not just internal business customers. In this case, the business had classified and categorized products according to sales channels and individual subsidiaries in the larger corporation. So if Division A wanted code written for searching dresses by color, a Scrum team completed that product for Division A. But if Division B requested code for searching clothes versus furniture, a Scrum team wrote code for a different product. What resulted was chaos for an end user alongside significant waste and inconsistency among divisions. With a view to the new end user, projects are better integrated across departments, functions, divisions, and subsidiaries. Product owners must consider consumers and end users in their representation of the voice of customer. Skipping retrospectives. Many Scrum teams skip retrospectives. This is a big mistake and is a leading cause for Agile failures. An advantage of Scrum over waterfall processes is the ability to experiment, learn, and adapt to changes quickly. Skipping the sprint retrospective bypasses the opportunity to make adjustments in team performance, product goals, and customer needs. The outcomes of skipping retrospectives include increased development time, lower quality products, and increased resource utilization cost. Further, when a Scrum team skips retrospectives, the Scrum Master and business analyst are unable to determine value delivered for the company or for the customer. Not knowing product value. If the product owner solely represents an internal business perspective, it is extremely difficult to determine the delivered value of a product or feature. In this case, the role of the business analyst is a significant help to rank and select projects across a portfolio with consistency. The product backlog should be prioritized based on value to the customer, end user, and value to the business. Delivered value is then validated during retrospectives and product releases. Lacking gate reviews, as in a conventional waterfall process, there is not a defined mechanism in Agile to kill projects unless value delivery cannot be met. Regrettably, most organizations implementing Scrum fail to link value to the product backlog and, in skipping retrospectives, also fail to measure value delivery. Thus, without value delivery as part of the definition of done, even unattractive Agile projects can live on and on. Organizations that fail to effectively use value metrics ultimately fail in implementing Agile. For instance, when we first began working with a digital retailer, they had no idea of the value of their customer-facing internet products. Product owners created features based on inputs from engineering when they acquired new software tools. Working with the marketing manager, Scrum Masters began to assess the number of new customers and number of orders as part of each retrospective. These metrics demonstrated value delivery and were a good proxy for new revenue. Likewise, many organizations fail to capture the cost of development. One company for which we worked did not count development hours as an expense for the product. Managers had made the erroneous assumption that employees represented negligible cost since they would be assigned to work on one of several projects anyway. Development effort, cost of employees, and other resource expenses are factors directly impacting business value, the profit of a product. Planning with no action. Early Agile implementations swung the pendulum of project direction too far to correct against the lack of exploration in waterfall and the failure to adapt to changing circumstances. However, the lack of structure and reporting authority for self-organizing and autonomous teams was not fully suitable to a corporate environment. Scrum introduces ceremonies and rituals that provide lightweight discipline to an Agile process. To better integrate and scale product objectives across large organizations, many firms have introduced higher-level planning meetings. For instance, business managers might hold monthly planning meetings with product owners and Scrum Masters to align these several smaller teams to larger goals. Department executives might hold quarterly planning meetings to ensure alignment across business units, and the organization as a whole may use annual planning cycles to allocate budgets and resources. All of this planning ends up looking a lot like a waterfall process. In our consulting work, we were introduced to a company that had instituted weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual planning with the hope of improving communication and peer to market and speed to market for new product development. They sincerely believed they were operating under an Agile methodology. Yet goals and objectives changed at each planning meeting, impacting not only team objectives, but also their ability to achieve strategic business goals. At this firm, product owners, business analysts, and Scrum Masters were continually called upon to present estimates for the newest and latest plans. This resulted in huge distractions from ongoing work, including quality and maintenance, so that even tiny tweaks for new product functionality were falling behind schedule. Development teams were redirected to new activities as frequently as once a month. So while the Agile philosophy encourages adapting to change for the sake of change is paralyzing to an organization. In this example, the company was missing product releases measured by cycle time and lead time by 50% or more. Team members were understandably frustrated with the work environment, and employee turnover accelerated. Subsequently, lower experienced employees were unable to pick up the work quickly enough to meet modified release schedules and also quickly became disenchanted with the company's approach to project work. Scrum processes can and should be complemented by a lightweight planning process. Organizational level planning helps to align business goals and activities with strategic objectives, but heavyweight planning can turn an agile process into waterfall with no results. Letting software drive the process. No one can argue that software tools absolutely enhance our ability to manage schedules, budgets, and resources on a project. Yet, too often project management software drives the process rather than supports it. While software can further slow a staged and gated new product development process, the negative impacts of poorly applied project management software are even more damaging in agile implementations. For example, we supported product development training in a large multinational corporation. The Human Resources Department and Agile coaches assisted with training by recommending existing course material for each product manager based on experience in the job. However, when asked for a simple metric, the on-site staff were unable to probe their project management software. The query was repeated for about 4 months, with HR and Agile coaches raising the issue to the VP of Product Management. After all this time and effort, we still were unable to get a response for the requested metric. Perhaps the metric was too obscure or complex. No, the requested metric was a simple count of active projects. Despite over 2 years of operating with the Agile project management software tool, Scrum Masters continued to enter inconsistent data across departments and geographies. Product owners, however, were extremely diligent to enter user stories, adding new user stories even when modifying existing ones, which were often logged as new stories. Because metrics were not tracked to determine value delivery, cycle time, lead time, or even team performance, user stories were almost never marked complete in the software tool. Reports to upper management, therefore, did not capture completed user stories. Teams had no way of tracking sprint backlogs, and not even the VP of Product Management would venture a guess at value delivery or development cost. While this particular situation could be largely attributed to a poor software implementation lasting over 2 years, the inability to track simple project data led to organizational churn, lack of adopting true agile practices, and continued late delivery of products to internal and external customers. Instead of letting project management software drive your new product development process, agile or otherwise, establish an effective system that can be streamlined with appropriate software tools. No two organizations are the same, and the project management software that aids the new product development process must be tailored and customized to fit individual company needs. Most importantly, use software to support your NPD process steps instead of dictating software. Can Agile ever be successful? Since the Agile Manifesto was written over 20 years ago, there has been a lot of hype and hope among people that these new methodologies would transform project effectiveness. Specifically, many organizations adopted Agile processes to achieve better speed to market. New vocabularies to support Scrum, XP, and DSDM have popped up along with new job titles, Scrum Master, Agile Coach, and so on. So-called agile transformations have spread across industries and corporations with the dream of rapid product delivery and collaborative, happy team members. However, within new product development, it is nearly impossible to find a fully successful agile implementation. Figure 11.2 on the screen shows the normalized stock prices of some well-known retailers who claim they work under the guise of agile product development. These stock prices are compared to the NASDAQ exchange over a 5-year period between 2017 and the end of 2022. Data shown in the figure were normalized to show adjusted closing prices on a single y-axis to best show price trends. All of the stock prices in the figure show a sharp decline in March 2020 due to economic shutdowns associated with COVID. The NASDAQ resumed a gradual increase until inflation concerns hit the U.S. markets around fourth quarter 2021. Amazon. Amazon's stock price generally trends with the NASDAQ, showing a sharp decline initially with COVID and some decreases as household discretionary spending slowed a bit with inflation. Amazon requires management approvals for all projects at all levels of development, more like a waterfall process. The most important elements of Agile that Amazon has adopted are small working teams and using experiments to gather real customer feedback. Successful Agile transformations support this type of learning, but in January 2023, Amazon announced layoffs amounting to 10% of e-commerce staff, about 18,000 people, indicating head-to-head challenges of self-organizing teams with long-term fiscal discipline. Macy's. A department store with a 100-plus year history, Macy's is featured in the wonderful Christmas movie Miracle on 34th Street. For some years, full-service department stores at shopping malls have reportedly barely survived with the death knell sounding. As a retail stalwart, Figure 11.2 includes normalized adjusted closing prices for Macy's as comparison. Deemed a shrinking brand by media, Macy's stock price declined from 2017 to 2021. Just before the COVID shutdown slammed markets, Macy's CEO announced an agile transformation with a focus on digital sales under a codenamed project, Polaris. Pulling the trigger on Polaris was delayed due to COVID until fourth quarter 2020. See the light gray star on Figure 11.2 on the screen. With 70% of sales from brick and mortar stores, Macy's transformation was focused on addressing the changing needs of a new customer base. Millennials shop online and did so even more after the COVID lockdowns. Just 1 year into a reorganization that included closing retail stores and aligning brands, Macy's stock price has recovered and is trading in line with NASDAQ trends. Most of the enterprise transformation objectives implemented traditional sales responses, including better merchandising, loyalty programs, and streamlining administrative positions. The most significant Agile principle adopted by Macy's with the Polaris initiative was to increase customer interactions, certainly not an attribute that is held uniquely by Agile methodologies. Curate Retail Group, QVC. Finally, we compare the stock price of Curate Retail Group, QRG, owning several worldwide television shopping platforms with other digital retailers in Figure 11.2 on the screen. Curate acquired the Home Shopping Network, HSN, to complement their flagship QVC brand in 2017. Along with 24-hour marketing on several television channels, QRG has invested heavily in digital and e-commerce. At the time of the QVC and HSN merger, an Agile transformation was also initiated, changing project management from a waterfall process to a Scrum-like process, shown as a gray star, the dark gray star in Figure 11.2 on the screen. Like Macy's and other comparable retailers, the QRG stock price declined from 2017 to 2020. With COVID lockdowns, QRG saw a slight bump in stock price as stay-at-home shoppers watched lots of television and supported the brand. Unlike Macy's, however, QRG has entrenched the vocabulary of Agile, but doubled down on planning and meetings, failing to take advantage of streamlining offered by truly Agile approaches. Technical debt, due to lack of understanding of customer value and huge backlogs, hinders the ability to launch fully tested code that serves end users effectively. 5 years into their Agile transformation, QRG's stock price has dropped over 80%. Turnover at the executive level does not appear to be solving the core problem. Success with Agile components. Unfortunately, Amazon, Macy's, and QRG illustrate a stark story about Agile processes. None are successful because of sprints or changing job titles from project manager to scrum master. Even more worrying is the belief that being flexible can eliminate delays in product launches. QRG, in fact, seems to demonstrate the opposite with repeated failures to complete feature releases and functionality according to plans. To the contrary, what makes Amazon successful and is driving Macy's transformation are detailed and personal interactions with customers. Product development can only be successful if we manufacture and sell products that meet customer needs and gives them satisfaction. This is not a unique attribute for any Agile methodology and instead represents common sense business practice. Components of Scrum are incredibly useful and provide an opportunity to increase team collaboration across departments. In the next section, we introduce WAGILE, product development, which adopts many of the Scrum practices of Part 2, intertwined with the staged and gated discipline of Part 1. Then in Part 4, we describe another hybrid waterfall Agile new product development process in Lean new product development. Thank you for listening to the author reading of Chapter 11 in the Innovation Process book. Again, you can get your own copy of the Innovation Process book by scanning the square QR code on the screen. We are also offering an online course starting August 12th, 2025. You can get access to that course by scanning the QR code in the circle on the lower right hand of the screen. Next up, we're going to start Part 3, WAGILE product development, which is a combination of waterfall and Agile. Yes, it's a made-up word, but you will find the processes balance the discipline of staged and gated processes and the flexibility and speed to market of Agile. So thank you for listening along, and I'll see you next time.